Good morning,
Good morning. Today is November 4th,
third,
3rd, November 3rd.
and it's 1999. No, I'm sorry, 2024.
I remember that.
And Eisenhower, no, he's not president anymore.
2024. And our topic today is, do you see what I see?
Ah,
Aha.
what a clever title.
Yes, and we are referring to that this is election week. This is the week that we vote for our presidential candidates and lots of other candidates. And so it's a time that a lot of people are experiencing anxiety. I don't ever remember a race. There's always a competition between our favorite candidate and then the one that's not our favorite.
The wrong one.
Yeah, the wrong one. But I don't think ever before have both sides felt like if the other person wins, our country is in danger of collapse. And both sides seem to believe that this time. So there is a lot of anxiety about this election, who's going to win, how the other person will take the loss,
Right.
whether they will accept it or not.
And the
Whether
reason we're
we'll have a
bringing
big
this up,
fight.
the reason we're bringing this up is because we're moving to Canada.
Where, by golly, people are just nice.
Yeah, yeah. They mow their lawns and if they're gonna shoot, they say, I'm so sorry I have to do this.
No, but it's interesting, and that's why we chose the topic, do you see what I see? Because each side, each group is so sure that they're right, that this is the right candidate, the right way to govern a country, and so it can create a lot of anxiety because it's 50-50. It's very, very close. Everybody says it's the closest election they've ever seen for president. And so we want to talk about that and how you can lower any anxiety you may be feeling.
Drugs, definitely drugs.
Drugs, number one. Okay. Do you want to recommend any,
No,
Bob?
we don't recommend drugs. No, we recommend being fully conscious. Actually, the first thing I think that's really important is that for us to take the larger view rather than the smaller view. And I say that because what I think happens for us is that we work with very limited information. And we believe when we're working with limited information, that is whatever we're being told, that we're actually seeing all there is to tell. And because we believe that we got all the information that we need, we're making judgments on the basis of that. And the judgments often, like I said, are made from a world that we have made too small rather than larger. So the first thing I'd like to suggest is that no matter who wins, no matter how this works out, it is in the best interest of the growth that we all need to make as a country and as a human race for us to move forward. And so if the person that we don't want to have wins, then we're not going to Canada. We're going to have to then decide, how can this be the best possible choice for us? How can this be the best possible way for us to explore making this a better world, making this a world that works for everyone? I think what some people have done is they've said it's either my way or I'm out of here. I can't do this. I will fight. I'll have a war. And that would be nice if it would work, but in the past, we already know that that doesn't work. There has to be a peaceful way to move forward that includes everyone, not just a few, or not just the larger of the two numbers.
Well, one of our prayer practitioners has pointed out to me that whoever wins by right of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's not just their consciousness, it means the consciousness of the majority of the voters, or unfortunately, in our case, it's not the majority wins, but the majority of the state,
The electoral
college, which
Yeah.
every state gets so many votes.
And I'm not sure they've been to college.
Dependent upon their population. So it is dependent on population, but it's really not the majority wins, because if so, we would have very different results in the past. But it is a matter of consciousness that the majority of people in that state wanted this situation. And we have to understand that consciousness always outpictures. It always manifests. So So we get exactly what we deserve,
And
whether
so,
we like it or not.
so the worst possible thing could be, in fact, the revelation that we need, the revealing of what we need to see to be able to make the changes that are necessary. Obviously, it would be nice for me if the person that I have in mind wins, because then everything would be fine, except the truth is, no matter who I've ever voted for with the idea that it would be good or it would be right, there have been problems and it hasn't all gone well. So the truth is that there are choices, and then within that framework of choices, there are going to be more choices and more and more and more. So we could end up with what we believe to be the right choice and find out that's not working out anywhere near as well as we want it to. So I think we need to be, as Ernest Holmes said, open at the top, open to a new idea, open to a new way of approaching or seeing or being in this world that can work for everyone. And be less rigid about, if it isn't my way, we're all, we all need to dig a hole and hide out in it for 4 more years.
Yeah, in other words, the point that Bob is making that he discussed with me earlier is that, even if our candidate wins and our party wins, it has not always been honest and best. In other words, we're finding out that there is always um, some underhanded dealing, especially by our senators and congressmen, but especially senators
Well, and our the lobbyists.
on both
Yeah,
parties.
So it's
Our
really,
lobbyist system is a system of bribery.
it's not a clean system. And so what's happening is we are unearthing the unrest and the unhappiness with the things that are wrong. The way to solve those things obviously has to do with whoever is in, who wants to approach it from their point of view. But the truth is, there's an awful lot of unrest. The hatefulness that I hear now, the hate of races, the hate of groups. What's really interesting is how shocked everybody is that this exists, except that I grew up with it.
And
And
it's been that way in Congress and our
it's,
Senate
it's been that way all along.
forever.
Yeah, so if it's been that way all along, the thing that's changed is we're now having a conversation about it. We're now actually engaged in seeing who the people are that have the points of view that they've had. A lot of what's going on right now that is so awful for us to deal with has been going on all along, except it's been kept quiet.
Yeah, I've been listening to a Rachel Maddow podcast, and she has been sharing about the horrible things that happened pre-World War II. You know that we had a strong Nazi movement within
Yeah,
our government, within our Congress, and all the things they did, uh, including by religious leaders.
yeah.
So we just have, we are not a perfect union, and so we have to just know that whatever is best in the long run, and that can be hard to accept when it's not what we want. But I would also like to say how I minimize my anxiety is I always imagine and visualize my presidential candidate of choice winning, and uh, our being happy with that and seeing good results. In other words, I visualize what I want. I visualize what I want to see because we're always creating with our minds. I know it's up to the voting of all the country. It's not totally up to me, but I know I can do my part by visualizing what I want to see. And that keeps me out of anxiety. If I were to do the opposite, which is to worry about the candidate I don't want to win, that would just upset me and help create what I don't want. So I don't mean that I'm all powerful. I'm just handling my own anxiety and doing what I can to create the desire that I want. That's how it works in everything that we manifest, that we attract, that we want. And it happens, we do that by always thinking about, and when we start worrying, bring it back to center
Mhm.
about what we want.
I think back to early employment for me and for a lot of people. And very often when you're employed with a new job, you're qualified, hopefully. And because you're qualified, you got the job. But they gave you 3 months to overcome all of the anxiety that you have about not being equipped. not being ready, not being good enough, not knowing how to do, not knowing where everything is. And so you can be equipped with what you need to know and still have to allow yourself to move into that space and discover what it is you can do in that space so that you can use your gifts. Fear doesn't help you do that. In fact, fear is one of the things we have to overcome when we undertake a new job or a new project. And the fear is what limits us and holds us back rather than allows us to embrace and engage and connect. We are going to make mistakes. We've already made a lot of mistakes. We're going to learn hopefully from our mistakes and maybe make fewer of them or make different ones in the future. Not making mistakes is not even an option. It comes with the territory. Every medicine that's ever been discovered that has been used to help wipe out a disease has gone through a series of mistakes before the one that was going to work was found. And a lot of close calls, a lot of, oh, I think we've got it, I think we've got it. And what I hear happening is that I don't believe in science. It's an absolute yes or no, or I believe in it 100%. The truth is we have to believe in the process. We have to believe in the opening of the process to more questions, a deeper inquiry. I need to know more. I need to participate more. I need maybe to participate differently. And those are all wonderful gifts we get that allow us to express our creativity and our imagination. Or we just become rigid and scared and shut down and narrow our world, we make our world so small when we get scared that at the end of the day, there's not even enough room for us.
So with the question, do you see what I see? The likely answer to that is
No.
not likely. Not really, because everybody sees according to their own needs, their own past experience, their own desires. So we have to realize we all see things differently. And this is especially true right now because with the two divides of the two parties, we're not getting the same information. We watch different news channels. And I was recently discussing this with relatives of mine. And I said, we're not getting the same information. Even the way our candidates are shown are either positive or negative, and guess which ones for which news channels. And so I mentioned that and gave examples, and they said it's true. And of course, uh, one of the ones we don't even call a news channel. As a matter of fact, the owner of it has called it an entertainment channel. Well, when I mentioned that to my relatives, I got a huge reaction. What are you talking about? Of course, it's the news. And I don't consider it news at all. I consider it opinion, or as the owner says, entertainment. So if we're getting different information, we're going to have different beliefs. And I really think that needs to change if we can ever change it before. Do you see what I see? If it's the same thing.
And I guess then the question is, do you want to see more, or are you wanting to hold on to what you see? And because it's more comfortable to have it figured out than it is to be open to, maybe I don't have all the facts, maybe I don't see everything. This wonderful spiritual exploration that we're on, and I'm assuming because the people that are coming to our group are explorers as well, constantly has us have to confront whether or not what we believe or know is absolutely true, or whether we need to change that or grow that or amend that. And that is different from some beliefs in which you believe this and nothing else. In fact, we can't even have a conversation about it because it would be somehow blasphemous, or it would be the wrong thing. So what I'm seeing, and this takes me way, way back, I don't think it's true anymore, that when I was dating this young girl, and I was probably 14 or 15, and I wanted to take her to church with me. She had to ask her priest whether she could go to my church or not, and the priest said, "If you say the rosary the whole time." So, so what he was saying is, you can't be exposed to it, and if you're exposed to something and you change your mind, then it's going to be a betrayal of what you believe. And so, but we have to be willing to not have everything that we think and believe be a fact, but rather be an opinion, be an assessment, be our best guess right now, given what we know. And then that allows us to see and do more. I was impressed recently when I heard, I'm trying to remember the actual numbers, but they were numbers for both parties when our last president was in. the actual numbers for what he did in this particular area were better than the more liberal of the presidents. So, and he probably didn't do that all by himself. It was probably other people participating too. So when we actually begin to file it down and say what actually happened here, we get past the rhetoric, it wasn't all bad and it wasn't all good, no matter who was in. I mean, and everybody makes mistakes, and some of them are a lot more obvious than
And good
others.
and bad in our opinion.
Exactly, exactly. So I think it's really, really important. So from the spiritual perspective, we need to be open at the top. We need to allow that whatever's happening is a process that is for our good, not for our bad. And it may be for our good that we have to uncover some things that we really would like not to have happen anymore. But the truth is, we have to allow.
I have a quote from Ernest Holmes, our founder, that I think is apropos here, and from A New Design for Living, which is a book that he wrote. And it says, we need never view human personality as something unreal or unworthy, but rather as an individualization of the divine. It is the universal spirit that is incarnated in each one of us in a unique way, and that gives warmth, color, and variation to that which otherwise would be an eternal monotony. So that's another way of looking at it. If we were a one-party system, it could be eternal monotony. And instead, this two-party system kind of encourages us to be better, do better.
Yeah, and there's arguments that we might even want to have a third or a fourth, and that could even be better. And maybe that's what will eventually happen, is it will evolve into a better system that works for everyone, rather than there's this way or there's that way.
I know, I was fascinated that in Denmark and countries like that, that they have like 5 parties, and their Congress is made up of the percentage of voters that they each get. They
Right.
get that many representatives
They're real
in
parties.
Congress. So everybody gets a vote for their party. It's really interesting.
So one thing I'd like to suggest is that, reading a message here we got from Linda, a panel seems intelligent. A panel seems intelligent. I don't know what that means, but we'll pursue it afterwards. Oh, I lost my train of thought.
You are speechless. So back to the question, do you see what I see? You know, we expect everybody to understand how we see the world, how we feel about it, because we always think we're right. And we are based on our own experience.
Sure.
But no, it's not likely that anybody else sees things just like you do. So that's important to remember. And remember that they have their point of view and their reasoning as well. I remember when Bob and I first met and we were discussing politics. I was born and raised largely in Louisiana, and as part of the South. And of course, I was raised with that belief system. And when I was very young, everybody was Democratic. At least all the white people were Democratic. And that changed. That changed, as Lyndon Johnson said it would, when they
Segregation.
enabled the Equal Rights Amendment, because suddenly all the white people became Republicans. And Johnson said, we just lost the South for 50 years, and it's been more than 50 years
Yeah.
actually now. And so when I grew up, everybody I knew was Republican. And when you have that kind of majority, that just seems right and obvious. And I voted that way for many years. And actually, I changed after I graduated college, and I started working with deprived people. I started working in mental health with people, with poor people, with mentally ill people. And I realized they had needs too. They had rights and needs too. And I changed the way I saw things and the needs of people, because we can get very myopic. We can get very, we know what we want and we know what's best for us, but we're not looking at the whole
Yeah,
population.
and we actually don't even know that. We think we do. You know, I can remember when we ate Wonder Bread, it was good for us. I'm not sure that that's true. I don't think.
What's that, 7
Yeah,
added
yeah,
vitamins?
right, yeah, and Velveeta cheese was one of the better cheeses, and I don't think that's true either. I think there's a lot of things that we believe were right for us that were good that have turned out not to be so good after all. And I think we just need to be open to that and allow it rather than to not allow it. Another way we're talking about all of this is there's an abundance of good. There's an abundance of possibility. And in some ways, it's like you fill your car with gas and you have a whole tank of gas. And you don't necessarily know you have a whole tank of gas except by the gauge because you're only using the gas that you're placing a demand on right now. And so if we measure our good on the basis of how much we're using right now, we really don't have a true sense of how much there is. So you have maybe possibly with a full tank of gas, the ability to drive 300 miles on a tank of gas. That's a lot of gas. And I'd like to say there's a lot of gas for good. There's enough fuel for possibility to take us a great distance. And the fact that we can't access it all at one time is because actually it's not a good idea to access it all the time. It's only good to access what we need right now, right now, right now. But there's enough to go around. So there's enough fuel for the possibility of good to take us wherever we need to go. But we can't give up on that. We can't believe that the tank is half empty or that there's not enough gas for us to go where we need to go. We have to know that we are fueling it with our consciousness.
That's true. And I remembered something that I was explaining to you when we first started talking about politics. And that is that because Bob grew up in cities in the Northeast. And as I say, I grew up in Louisiana. And I explained to him that as far as gun usage, you don't need guns in the city unless the police need it. But if you're in the country, and people who grew up in farms, they needed rifles.
Mhm.
They needed to be able to chase away the wolves that might be after their livestock. They really needed weapons like rifles. And so it's largely that debate about should we have guns or not is largely city folks against country folks.
Yeah,
And that really is our basic
another
parties,
divide, yeah.
basically, another divide.
It's interesting because the first rifle I bought when I lived in the country.
Ah,
Yeah,
sure, yeah. So no, everybody doesn't see what you see, and we need to understand that and be flexible. Be flexible.
hopefully this is useful. It's an ongoing process. We really have to constantly be looking at what is it I believe that's operating beneath the scenes here. I do a communication workshop, and one of the first things that I talk to the people that I'm teaching is about listening. And they all agree that listening is important, but it wasn't until I think this last year that I began to realize that we listen from a point of view. We listen with a bias, we listen with a prejudice. And so we're not actually listening, we're listening for the evidence to support the belief we already have about a person that maybe we've only just met. And that's really exciting or very sad, depending on the limitations we place on a person because of our listening and the way we listen. So I'm asking everybody this week to, as we get closer to the election, to be open to the possibility of good in every single thing that's occurring. And however this works out, I would like to say, and it's difficult to even consider, that it's for the best. And I say that knowing that even as I say that, there's a part of me that says, no, 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 no. But it has to be for the best because I have to be willing to move in whatever direction I need to for it to be the best. And I think
And so it is.
yeah, so it is indeed. So I think we're gonna, did you do the share screen?
I'm going
You
to do that
did.
right now.
Wow. Okay.
So you get to do this today.
So for those of you that would like to support us or continue supporting us, we can only do what we're doing because of your support, both emotionally and financially. We would love to have you contribute whatever you feel you can to our Science of Mind program, which is the cslpalmbeaches.org. And if you want to donate, you can go to our website, which you see on the page right now, and click on ways to donate. And you find a way for you to be able to donate, and we'll find a way to use that resource for the best that we can possibly use it for, to reach out and touch people's lives in a positive way. And so what we're going to share together is, or what we like to say, it's kind of our pledge to the universe. And if you can't say it with me, my investment today is made
Made with
with a
full
full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. Every good idea that you have has the possibility of more good ideas behind it. Your good is easily multiplied when you move in that direction. So we'll go back to stop share and end recording.